The Xbox Series S is referred to by some as the black sheep of this console generation, with plenty of people saying that it's going to hold it back, a sentiment that I strongly disagree with. I also can't help but think that these people don't realize that the Xbox Series X and the Xbox Series S coexisting is great for the consumer. If you want an Xbox Series X, get an X. If you want an Xbox Series S, get an S. But it can be a little bit difficult to know which one is the right one for you. I got myself the Xbox Series S about 3 weeks ago, after watching countless of videos on whether I should get this machine or if I should shell out the extra $200 to get the Series X. That is, if you can even find it for that price. My initial thought when unboxing this thing was, this machine is tiny. To really get a perspective on just how small the Series S is, all you have to do is place a Nintendo Switch next to it. This might not be a selling point to most people, but for people who travel a lot and want to bring their console with them, packing this into your luggage isn't exactly rocket science. It also fits into pretty much any backpack you could think of with plenty of spare space for other things. Secondly, there's the design of the console itself. This generation, Microsoft has definitely decided to put the box in Xbox, with both the Series S and the Series X just being two different rectangles. When the Series S was first announced, the internet did what the internet does best and memed the design heavily, with images depicting it as an oven top, a speaker, and even one image depicting it as Plankton from SpongeBob. I do remember not being immediately drawn to either the design of the Series S or the Series X's monolith design, but the Series S's design has actually grown on me quite a lot. Combining the size factor with the contrast of the black fan grille has become very appealing to me, and I will sometimes peek over at the box itself while gaming, thinking to myself, it's pretty unbelievable what this little thing is capable of. The Series S is advertised as a 1440p 120Hz machine versus the Xbox Series X's 4K 120. And while it is capable of outputting this kind of performance, it does vary from game to game, with a lot of titles outputting at a lower resolution to hit those higher frame rates. I've put a link in the description if you want to check out this list for yourself. Naturally, with the Series X being more powerful than the Series S, the visuals of games are different, with Series X being able to show more detail than the Series S. However, let me paint you a picture. One of the biggest selling points for the Series X is 4K gaming. So what if you don't own a 4K TV or display?
Well then, do I have the deal for you? If you plug a Series X and a Series S into a 1080p 60Hz display, then guess what? They'll perform the same. Your games will run at 1080p at 60 FPS, albeit with some downgraded visuals for the Series S, but if you're willing to sacrifice some visual fidelity, storage space, and the lack of a disk drive in exchange for saving $200,
If you could even find it for that price.
then this machine might be for you.
With that bit out of the way, let's talk about those three sacrifices, starting with the Series S being an all-digital machine. While I think that all digital is where we're headed, and wouldn't be surprised if the next generation or the generation after that turns out to only have digital options, I understand the appeal of owning discs and the joy of collecting them. I would say that if you're upgrading from an Xbox One or 360 for this generation of Xbox, and still have a collection of physical games that you intend to keep playing, then this is a no-brainer. You want the Series X. If I was in your shoes, that's what I would have done. However, I'm not. The last Xbox that I owned was a 360, and I have since sold it along with all of its games. So I am re-entering the Xbox ecosystem completely fresh. If you're in my shoes and tend to buy games digitally anyway, then the Series S could be right for you. Especially if you're planning on subscribing to Xbox Game Pass. For those of you who don't know what Xbox Game Pass is, it's a subscription service for games. Much like Netflix is a subscription service for watching movies and TV shows. The Series S has been referred to by some as the Game Pass box, and this is a sentiment that I can definitely agree with. For me, no matter which Xbox you own, Game Pass is a must-have. It gives you access to a library of over 400 games, which you can download and play at your leisure for as long as you have an active Game Pass subscription. Games are also constantly being added, with every first-party Xbox game being put on Game Pass on day one. The first thing I did after setting up my Series S was to pay the $1 for my first month of Game Pass. No, it's not $1 for every month, that would be ridiculous. It's $1 for your first month and then $15 for every recurring month after that. But either way, this gave me instant access to an enormous library of games, which actually made me very happy with my new console purchase. Secondly, let's talk about visual fidelity. Like old-timey me stated, if you don't own a 4K TV, you won't actually be able to get everything out of your Xbox Series X. If you're planning on getting a 4K display, then yes, maybe the Series X is what you want to get. But if you're completely satisfied with your 1080p display, then maybe the Series S is what you're looking for. That being said, for these comparisons to make sense, we'll keep a standard of 1080p 60fps. This is Forza Horizon 5 running on the Series S in performance mode, versus the Series X running the same game also in performance mode. Yes, you can tell that the Series X is able to run games more beautifully than the Series S, But it's actually kind of crazy that the difference isn't enormous. The game still looks stunning running in performance mode on the Series S. Austin Evans actually released a video recently where they do a bit of a deeper dive into the visuals of the Series S and X. I highly recommend checking it out. I've left a link in the description below. The last thing, which is my biggest gripe with the Series S, is storage. The Series X comes with 1 TB of storage, 802 GB of which is usable, while the Series S comes with 512 GB of storage, 364 GB of which you can use. In case you aren't aware, new games are pretty damn big. Forza Horizon 5, for example, is 103 GB, so downloading that game to your Series S almost takes up 30% of the total space available. That's a problem. Even the Series X's 802 GB will fill up pretty fast, which means that you're going to have to look at external storage options, especially with the Series S. An external hard drive certainly comes to mind. The problem with using one of these is that the current generation of Xbox uses an NVMe SSD. Without going into specifics, this just means that games can load way faster than they could in the past. If you were to use an external hard drive, you would be able to run most games, but not games optimized for the Series X and S straight from the hard drive. Instead, you would have to move the game from the hard drive to the internal storage to boot it up. There is another option though. If you look at the back of the Series S, you can see a slot labeled storage expansion. Seagate and Xbox partnered up to make an official storage option for consumers. This option is capable of running games optimized for the Series X and S. So you might be thinking, okay, well then that's that problem solved then. And yeah, sure, but there is one little hiccup. The price. 512 GB is $140, 1 TB is $200, and 2 TB is more expensive than the Series S itself, coming in at $400. So let's say you get the 512 GB option. That would put your total cost for your Series S and the storage expansion at $440, which is $60 away from a Series X. And at that point, honestly, just get the Series X. So now you might be thinking, if these are your thoughts, then why on earth did you get a Series S, Nick? I got the Series S because I don't intend on buying games physically, I don't own a 4K TV, and I don't see myself buying one in the near future. And finally, buying an inexpensive hard drive of 1 TB or more and moving games back and forth doesn't really bother me all that much. In all reality, I'm not going to be switching between games that require an internal storage so often that it becomes a drag, and moving games is still far faster than having to re-download them. Another solution to the storage issue is cloud gaming. If you have a stable internet connection, you can stream your games off the cloud, which actually gives you the visual fidelity of a Series X as well. If streaming a game off the cloud isn't for you, you could also see it as a way to try a game. Let's say you want to play Forza Horizon 5, but you're not sure if it's for you. Then you could boot it up using cloud gaming, play it for a while, make up your mind, and if it turns out that it is for you, then you can go ahead and download it. In conclusion, I love my Series S. I've been using it daily since I got it, and the only thing that I could even slightly complain about is the storage, and I was able to solve that in a way that worked for me and could possibly work for you too. And with that, I hope that I've made your decision on which console to get a little bit easier. I'm also planning on making a video showcasing why I think that the Series S should definitely be considered a next-gen system. If that's something that you'd be interested in seeing, then consider subscribing, and while you're down there, liking the video or leaving a comment really helps me out. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you soon.